Hi there. It's Matthew Mckenzie, care activist, raising awareness of those who care for someone with long-term ill health or care for someone with neurodivergence. If no one knows what that sort of means, it's care for someone with forms of autism. Um, Basically, your role helps those who depend on you. If you would have difficulty getting on with what they're trying to do if you weren't there to support them. So this time, what I'm going to present on, and it's going to be fairly long because it's filled with so much support. As you can see, there's a building in front of you. Basically, I've just put that down as a care center. I hold a lot of online and care groups, sometimes in care centers, oddly enough. At carers, and I do encounter some carers asking me, what on earth does a carer centre do? So I felt, and I've done a video on carer centres in the past actually, but I felt it's due time I do another one. The one I did was probably about 3 years ago. So it helps raise that awareness to millions of carers in the UK who feel like they could do with some extra support, but they don't often know about care centres. And to be honest, I run carer stalls at hospital, and every time someone comes up to the stall not realizing they're a carer, I keep referring them back to their local carer centre. So what is on the agenda for this video? So when I'm talking about carer centres, the very first sort of thing they do is give access to information resources aimed at unpaid carers, usually those caring for a family member or a friend, a close friend. So we're talking about, well, what type of information and resources are at these care centres? And usually most boroughs, districts around the UK have something local. And if they don't have a centre, usually the local authority will try and step in and provide something where carers can get hold of access and information. But most of the times you'll have your common carers hub or care centre. We'll also talk about the other thing I find really important in using care centres, and that is getting access to emotional and peer support networks. And to be honest, I should have put down carer peer support networks, because that's what they tend to usually be. Then we'll talk about what training can be provided to carers, and the focus on the importance of skill development and advocacy services. We'll look into respite care. I think respite is becoming more rare these days, but they still happen, and there's different forms of respite as well. So we'll be looking into the type of respite care access and financial support. Then we'll talk about the access to legal rights. There are some care centres that do employ legal surgeries. You can just drop in and speak to them about situations you will need regarding legal affairs, and you might not think you might not need that if you're starting out on your caring journey, but they're very important. And if you're a care centre, in your area, do ask about them. But we'll have a look and see, well, why should carers even access these things? And also the focus on practical care advice. Then we're looking into breaks, activities, and one-to-one support. Emergency care planning, very important, because you never know. Obviously, the role of being a carer can have its unpredictability, obviously depending on the thing that you're caring for, the type of illness you're caring for. But they do happen, and it helps that if you've got emergency planning in place and you're getting that done from the experts, hence care support officers or staff at the care centres, then you're going to be better off, to be honest. And there's actually specialised support groups. One of them is support groups for young carers. We'll be delving into what type of support. Another one is stress management resources and health services. Again, very important. Being in a carer's role, you're going to be prone to all types of stressful situations, emotional situations, depression. Isolation can bring that on, anger, anxiety. So they tailor certain support depending on what you're sort of going through. And they also look at health services aimed at the carer themselves, because unfortunately the caring role, carers tend to not focus so much on their own health and well-being needs, because they're so busy focusing on the person that they're caring for. And also, it's not just that, due to the type of role, there might not be time, really. You might want to focus on your health and well-being, but when things do get out of hand, when you're caring for someone, you might not be able to look into your own health and well-being. And this is so important that carers have access to that and maybe educated and given a chance for those types of things. We'll also be looking at how care centres can help someone navigate the healthcare system, and there'll probably be some regarding a social services system. That's a whole different presentation or video that I plan to do, navigating the healthcare system or the social care system. But care centres, they will have someone that helps you do that. Not always. There's some specialised services that will be really difficult, even for a care centre, to try and help navigate. And one thing that springs to mind is mental health services can be very complex. So care centres tend to collaborate with care support officers, care leads at mental health trusts. Again, that's a whole different presentation. Also, how can care centres help with housing and home adaptations? And we'll briefly delve into that. They do them. They do advise and support regarding those things, because you could be caring for an elderly person who cannot move around so easily, and there's also a risk to the person you're caring for, and I think the number one thing is falls. So this is where care centres they step in, because quite a few carers will be obviously caring for a parent in older adults. One of the last things before I reach that conclusion is carer's assessment. I think that's probably one of the most important things that you can get access to as a carer. Not the biggest one only, but one of the most important ones. I think the biggest one is registering at a care centre, so you're identified first. Then other things, if you're able to access them, fall into place. But what is so important is that you need your caring role documented and recorded. And care assessments are not really just all about what you can get out of them. They're meant to be, well, in the past, they're more of a way of engagement with the carer, and you might have 2 or 3 a year. So it's a way of therapeutically engaging and helping the carer plan and flagging things up. But now they've become more of a, well, if you're lucky to get them, I suppose, a once a year thing. And even if that, it might be something you might think to yourself, do I need one? To be honest, if you can, do push for it. They're very, very important. But anyway, we'll be delving into that. And wellbeing services that are offered. And then we'll wrap things up. So as you can see, this is quite a big guide, quite a big presentation, because it's not always so clear what care centres offer. And I do get carers coming up to me and say, oh, well, you're going to refer me to a care centre, but what do they offer? I mean, to find me going down there, how can they help me when my loved one's in hospital about to be discharged into my care again? What can I get out of them? And yeah, even though this video is fairly big, I will split up the video into specific content. So if you look into the description of the video, you can just click on a particular title of interest. So access to information and resources at care centre. How does that work? So obviously, I mean, you don't always have to register at care centre. You can just walk right in, have a look around, look at the leaflets, and then if it takes your fancy, you can just come back and then register. But the biggest thing a care centre can do is provide information, not only on just benefits, but on services. And the biggest one that they tell you is, are you a carer? They say, is this your role? So care centres provide up-to-date information on benefits, entitlements, services available to carers, including healthcare options and legal rights. It's all wrapped up into one. It's more than that. They provide information on what's going on in the local, in your area. What sort of events, could be a surgery, could be feedback event regarding service changes that affect your loved one. It could be advice sessions, workshops. We'll get to that. But the biggest thing that a care centre can do for you, if you're a carer, an unpaid carer, is provide information, like leaflets you can take home, up-to-the-date campaigns, events that will be taking place at the care centre. That's probably the biggest thing I'd say care centres will do. As soon as you walk in, there'll be leaflets and guides dotted around for carers to pick up. There might even be stuff regarding information on what you're caring for, so you can get advice on that. The importance of accessing that information is crucial to carers, in order to make informed decisions about their caregiving responsibility. So, as I mentioned earlier, you might get information on for instance, caring for someone with dementia, caring for someone with a form of cancer. And not always. You might get a sort of Macmillan support centre, but usually in care centres you might get a focus on what type of illness you're caring for, and also the biggest one, I suppose, is if you're a carer, these are the things you need to prepare for, and I will do a video on that. That'll be a lengthy video. I have it planned on what sort of things you need to look out for when you're started out on your caring role. And also navigating challenges. If you are new to the caring role, you're not really sure what your journey holds in front of you, and there's probably links to planning for emergency support and care. What happens if something happens to yourself. There are initiatives like carers cards and discounts, but also, as mentioned, understanding the available resources that can help carers navigate the challenges that they face. Some things might not always be on display. You can always turn around and just ask them, you're facing a specific challenge now regarding your caring role. There's no reason why you can't turn and ask the staff member at the care centre, how do I navigate this? And it could be getting access to information, but you're not getting anywhere regarding health professionals, or you're facing a new issue that you've not sort of foreseen. It could be flexible time at work. How can that be negotiated? What are your rights? I think that the biggest one is carers' rights. What is your rights as a carer? So how those can help you navigate those challenges, not just your rights, but many other things as well regarding your carer's role. Through that information, the access to information and resources, it actually empowers carers to provide the best care they can for their loved ones. So an area about a care centre will find carers actually lost in the health and social care system, and they become lost providing care for their loved one. And what tends to happen is that the person that's dependent upon them, the cared for, may actually suffer for that, and the carer may actually suffer for that, and it makes their role a whole lot harder. So it's always important to think of how can we empower carers in our local area through providing information and resources. And it's also got to be fairly up to date. I can understand care centres are strapped for resources, but the more up to date information you can get, the better it is for carers attending. And a quick warning: not all care centres are the same. It's more like a postcode lottery, if I'm sort of trying to be as polite as I can. You can get the best of the best if you're lucky enough to get a care centre that's well resourced by the local authority, who can fund, or they award a contract to a care centre. And if the care centre has a lot of funds, they can throw more at carers. Or if you're unlucky, you're living in a fairly well-off area, you might more likely get a care centre that's very supportive of those who end up in a caring role. The other thing that makes a big difference to care centres is not just the care centres themselves, it's the actual staff that work or passionate about carers. So that is probably the heart of a care centre. It's not just information, it's how clued up staff at the care centres are. If there are a lot of staff, if they can provide more advocates, I'll get into that in a bit. And trust me, I've been to many care centres. I engage with a lot of them. They're all good in their own way, but you when you visit care centre to care centre, you compare. To be honest, some do things very well even though they don't have the resources, and others that are well resourced don't use resources as well as they should. So that's one thing to know. Not all care centres are the same. So the first thing is, you got past accessing information, but the next thing is carers need more than just information. They need emotional and peer support networks, and the big reason for that, and it's going to be another lecture, is carers can suffer from isolation, and the caring role can put emotional strain. So okay, look, care centres offer counselling, not all of them, because unfortunately it can be a funding issue and can be fairly expensive. But if you're lucky enough to get access to counselling and emotional support, certainly take that up because of, I suppose, of your role. And each care is different. Some cares are made of stronger stuff, or others don't have that particular, a heavy role. But if you're taking on a role where your loved one really is, really needs you, and they really are suffering, and you're doing the best you can, it can be an emotional roller coaster. So most care centres will have like one-to-one emotional support service to help carers manage the emotional strain of caregiving. And as you can see from the pictures, there's a care support group where carers can sit there in a safe environment. It's confidential what they say, and usually groups is meant to be that way, and talk about the sort of an up-to-date situation regarding the carer's role in a peer support environment. And yeah, I've jumped the gun a bit. It's also mentioned, peer support networks. So care centres host peer support groups where carers can connect. I think the key word here is connect with others in similar situations. They share experiences and gain also practical advice. So if you need to care roles, I always advise find a care support group in your area, and you attend those. You can try and learn from other carers who's been on that journey for a long amount of time. Peer support groups tend to run in the late afternoon because that way other carers can attend them if they're working carers. Some actually run online. In fact, I do quite a few carer groups online. Not many are peer groups though. I tend to do care forums a lot, and that is service engagement. That's another thing entirely. But peer groups are a great help to carers who find themselves isolated, are not sure of their identity, and feel disempowered. One thing with peer networks is that you can feed off your shared experiences with others. Carers find comfort and understanding by sharing their experience with others facing similar challenges. And the big reason for this really is other carers just get it. They won't sort of say, man up, or what are you talking about? You're not doing your job properly. I'm not saying it's going to be 100% like that. We're all human, and sometimes I've experienced carers getting into arguments with each other at these groups. But for most of the time, you feel at home, you feel welcome, because the person you're talking to, the other carer, just gets it. They know the territory, they know the role, they know the illness. They plan for things. They can tell you how they sort out their caring role. It's sharing those experiences and feeling like you belong. Because the other side of the coin is, if you don't have someone to link into, you become isolated. You can become emotionally stressed, and you feel that, are you the only person in that role? Is life going to be like this for the rest of your days, really? And it's not good for your well-being. Practical advice in peer groups and support groups, gain valuable insights and tips on caregiving from peers who, as I mentioned, just get it, so they understand the journey. And they're not there to judge you either. And also building connection, so you can connect with a supportive community that can provide encouragement and guidance during difficult times of your caring journey. So it's not like it's a one-off sort of thing. They usually hold peer groups usually once a month for certain care centres, and sometimes you can get stuff like happening once a week, and they couldn't be online or offline. The reason for online is sometimes you just can't really leave the care for unattended. So it makes sense that you can have a hybrid where some may be on site and some may be online. It's not an easy thing to do, really. I think running a hybrid group is very, very tough. Very tough. You have to have a very skilled facilitator to get engagement from online and offline groups. But it can be done, and I can see the reason why they do that. So okay, let's move on to skills training and advocacy. All different things, actually. So the point of the training workshop basically is to, as I mentioned before, you're not sure how to care for someone who's elderly. A good one is handling and moving the person around safely, or ways of communicating to someone who has mental health. So here it says learn essential caregiving skills like medications, as I should have mentioned, medication management and stress handling, your own stressful situation. And one of the most important things I say when someone starts the caring role is they're not really trained to do it. They just fall into that role. Luck of the dice, I suppose, on what type of illness you're sort of trying to care for. So it makes sense. Care centres should have some form of workshops, and again, they can be online. And most if the care centre is a fairly big building, it may run a workshop in one of the rooms which you can attend. Most usually are free, but some, I suspect, might need the care to pay for. It could be a funding issue, so do take note of that. Skills development programs, again, enhance your bit, and they give there's example of dementia care. I've mentioned the communication techniques in regarding caring for someone that might have mental health needs, or communication techniques to those who are unable to communicate that well. But they enhance your caring role. You'll be given tools in your caregiving role in order to help you provide more effective care. The advocacy, though, is different, because basically, and this is not as easy to get hold of, to be fair, this one's quite a rare thing. Basically, it's receiving assistance and representing your needs at local authorities and healthcare providers. Now, the reason I say why this is very, very not, it's there, but not that tailored, is because it's getting harder and harder to find specific care advocates, because of the range and number of ill health that a carer might be might be trying to care for. So it's sort of specialized. You mostly might find, if you're lucky, a mental health care advocate, but even then, there's only usually the one, maybe two care centers in a borough in the city. And you're thinking, how many carers are usually in a borough? You're looking probably 25,000 upwards. So can you imagine the one person trying to advocate for even just a small number of that, to be honest? And that would mean, when you talk about advocacy, all right, they might provide information on site, but think of it, carers, when trying to navigate healthcare and local authority, it's a very tough role. And that would mean the advocate might have to attend meetings with you. That can be difficult. I have experienced quite a few advocates. I'm from the Lewisham side, and I know we had carers Lewisham in the past. We had a mental health advocate who used to attend a lot of meetings at community mental health teams. She was very good. But nowadays they tend to be a lot more rare. But they do exist, and it depends on another good example, an advocate for someone caring for someone with cancer. Those are almost non-existent in a care centre, but they're usually there. They try and usually what I've noticed, if there's demand for it, they'll try and get someone in. So that usually tends to happen. But they're there. At least you can get different types of advocacy regarding your caring role. Whether they can attend a meeting with you or a review, that's the tricky bit. Carer forums. So many care centres host forums and social events where carers can share their views, celebrate achievements. Good ones usually would be Carers Week, Carers Rights Day, a World Suicide Prevention, World Mental Health Day, those types of things. Or simply relax with others. So they hold your standard care groups and social events. A good example is getting close to Halloween, and I've had a number of care centres ask me to raise awareness in regards to specific events they have at the care centre. And this is basically just to reduce isolation and make a way to develop a community where people come together and have fun, basically. Forget about the care and role for a bit. So this is slightly different from your peer group. There's elements of peer and connecting, but the main thing is forums for gatherings, sharing views like feedback, views regarding changes to healthcare provider services. I know as an organisation, Health Watch, that tends to take advantage of these groups to link in with carers, because that's one of their remits, in order to engage with unpaid carers in the borough. So let's move on. Respite, I think this is fairly rare, to be honest. There used to be a lot more respite services. Now I think they're dwindling, but this do get a few dotted around. What does it mean? Care centres can assist in arranging respite care services. They are the experts at the end of the day. They know how to do this. They provide carers with essential breaks while ensuring quality care for the loved ones maintained. Basically, respite is that you can only do a care and role for so long before you feel you do need a break yourself. And that could be just, going off somewhere for a couple of hours to a weekend away. It really depends on how well access to the funding is of the particular, I've forgotten the word for it, but the sitters, I suppose, would come in and help and support your loved one while you're having that break. There are respite services where you can actually go with the cared for. So it depends on funding initiatives. Financial support guidance, very common. When you're in a heavy caring role, you're not earning, you may end up using benefits, carer's allowance, that type of thing. So care centres offer advice on financial support options such as applying for carer's allowance or accessing local grants to alleviate the financial situations and challenges people can find themselves in. Because if you're caring, how are you going to work? You just can't do it, and the role in itself requires financial supports in order to help the cared for, because they're unwell. And that's not going to be all free. There's going to things you're going to have to get equipment, medication. You have to shop for food, travel, that type of thing. So, in a society that helps those that are vulnerable, these things are very important. But we'll move on. So the importance of respite care, as I mentioned, it allows carers to recharge, basically. Forget the care role just for a little bit, because carers are known to burn out because of the care role so heavy. They're doing it 24/7. You're going to burn out. So they ensure that once someone's recharged, they can continue on providing effective care. And the last bit here is financial aid assistance. So understanding and accessing financial aid can ease the financial strain on carers, enabling them to focus on the care, given responsibilities rather than worrying completely about financial assistance. Good one is loans or funds to upgrade the bathrooms for shower, because as I was caring for mum, her mobility declined. She couldn't move around and shower as much as well as she could. So the care centre offered a way to get some funding actually for that to be done. It was just, it was an on and off thing, but they found out about it and they passed it on to the carers. And sometimes it can help manage debt situations. With my mum, when I was caring for her, she got herself into a lot of debt. and the care support officers went through all the debt with myself and my mum in order to say, okay, what's more urgent and what can be negotiated with. And they would attend a lot of meetings to represent. And the reason I got that support is I knew where it was and knew where to ask for it. In fact, I had a community centre support from my mum who was helping, and a care support officer who advocated for myself, really, in regards to the situation that the family was facing. So that was an example. We'll move on to legal rights and practical care advice that are available from care centres. So legal rights. So care centres provide information on legal rights related to caregiving responsibilities, such as power of attorney. Again, that's a whole different presentation I'll do in the future, and guardianship. And there's a lot more than that. But these things do need careful thought because they hold a lot of power over someone. I don't know if that's the best sort of word for it, but if you're going to be going for these things like that, you got to be responsible. It's got to be well planned, and the sooner it might be done, depending on a person's illness, the easier it is going to be for the carer's role. The practical advice is, they offer guidance on caregiving aspects, including personal care techniques and communication strategies. Yep, I did mention that earlier on. And there might actually be some chances at lobbying if these legal rights don't often exist, or they keep failing carers. I have known care centres and some staff that actually go out there and lobby. They'll ask, well, why are these rights? Why are these things not available for carers? So it's well known for care centres to every so often come together. Carers Trust have network partners. I'm actually one of them. And we'll sometimes come together and discuss what are the big issues facing carers, what are the themes, and then we'll go off and try and lobby or try and get access to funding to alleviate those situations. In fact, it's one of the things care centres are known for. Not all will do this. You'll get some that will just quietly try and just focus back on the carer, but there will be some that will go out and lobby for carers' rights. Hence the meaning of Carers' Rights Day. A lot of care centres will make it their agenda to raise awareness of carers' rights on that specific day. So, okay, we're moving on to break activities and one-to-one support. So, breaks and activities like social activities, as you can see from that picture, they are doing like art workshops, art as therapy, poetry. I do that at care centres, poetry workshops, and short breaks organised for carers to relax and socialise. So every so often, if you manage to read like a newsletter from a care centre, and that's another thing they do, they try and keep carers informed. You'll see maybe an update on, the group went to a museum, or they went to a garden, big garden exhibition for carers to relax, or they went to watch a film. And the reason for that, a big reason, is that carers get isolated. They get worn down. They think, is that it? Is this what community means? Being isolated, caring for someone, and they lose their identity. So having a care centre do these things can really go a long way. You feel you're part of the community again. You feel part of society, and you're not hidden. That's one of the key words to unpaid carers. They tend to be hidden, and people expect them just to get on with it. And it's really sad. It really is. So these things are so important to bring carers back into the community, even if it's just for a short while. And you never forget, going on a break, you might be one of the highlights of your life, just remembering, to be having a bit of fun and spend time with those that know that role. One-to-one support. Again, not all care centres are alike, so you might not get this. But if you do, it's basically personalised support and guidance tailored to the specific needs of the individual carer. And the reason why it might not always be offered, because remember the numbers I've sort of mentioned, you've got thousands upon thousands of carers out there, and you only got maybe 1, 2, 3 staff members scrambling to help a care on the specific issues, which might be extremely complex. But if it's there, do take use of it, because staff at these care centres are usually expert. They've seen it all before, and they can give you quick shortcuts to take on a challenge you might be facing. And if they can't do it, usually they might end up referring, to be honest. Relaxation opportunity, I think, is very important. So again, you do look at that picture I'm showing you there. So there's workshops on resources on focusing on stress management or emotional strain, mindfulness. I do plan to do a video regarding what mindfulness is, because that's very important, and relaxation techniques. Again, this is all regards to, what can you use if you're going through emotional pressure. Tailored care advice. Remember that I mentioned about the leaflets when you walk into the care center. It's not just leaflets. There will be workshops and guidance on personal care, communication techniques, and managing challenging behaviors. And that not just for the cared for, but when you're having to deal with health professionals, giving carers confidence in advocating for themselves at times. So this is now the specialized section. We'll get to the. Actually, see a picture of a young carer. We will get to that in a moment. But emergency planning is very important, because there's care centers that assist in developing contingency plans. They'll actually have forms for you to have a look through and fill in for unexpected situations to ensure continuous care. And I know one of the big ones is the Universal Care Plan. For that very thing, if you sign up to it as a carer, if something goes wrong in your caring role, you're protected. So look out for that. And I'll see if I can come across developing a presentation regarding those things. They also provide guidance on emergency kits and contacts for immediate support. Hence, you'll have someone suffering from a fall or physical health issue. A good one is a workshop on and first aid. I've seen those fairly common in care centres, first aid workshops. But the idea is planning for emergencies. It's not good that you leave things to chance, because your loved one's health depends upon you. And if the key word is if it's planned, then when things like that happen, the impact is minimal. And as you can see, linked to the picture, specialized services, not just for young carers, but for minority groups, for those who are unwell themselves but are having to care for others who are unwell, older adult groups. So they're specialized really. But on this one, I put down, young carers are there. Out of many carers, they're the ones that need a fair bit of support, because they might not have that life experience to make good decisions regarding the caring role, and there'll be a lot of sacrifice their way in order for them to keep that family together. So specialized services are available to help young carers balance caregiving and education. That's one of the sacrifices, and personal growth. Like homework clubs, linking in with other young carers who again know that role. They're not going to bully them. In fact, young carers are often prone for bullying, because of if other children do find out what that young carer is caring for, and it could be a parent with mental ill health, young carers are prone to be bullied. School services might not understand young carers who might come in very tired, and the school might not sympathize, they might not be care aware. So it helps that the care centers can help advocate, raise that awareness of young carers in the school. And this way, young carers can receive tailored support to address their unique needs and challenges. Again, this is a whole different presentation that I'll probably have to try and develop. So now we're moving on to stress management and resources. Like I said, carers got under a lot of stress, and you can see a picture regarding well-being. So, as I said, workshop and resources focus on stress management, mindfulness sessions to help carers cope with the challenges of caregiving. And when you're doing that role for a long time, all right, you develop a thick skin, you really do, but it eats away at you. You begin to, and carers that can be prone for suffering mental health needs themselves after a while. Health services, again, programs that promote physical health. If you're busy, trying to help someone else, you're not looking after your own health. And this includes exercise classes, which is very good for not just the physical health, but the mental health. Also, health checks on nutrition advice for carers. Again, carers can be prone to not eating so well because they just don't have time to cook, and if the cooking is for their loved one, and then the next day they're at work and or whatever. Do you see what I mean? So nutrition advice to maintain their well-being. And remember, offending other carers, they're not working, so they can't often think what sort of healthy food to get. And also with the health checks, a lot of care centre staff remind carers to get health checkups at the local GP. So that's quite important. This one, you can tell by the picture, navigating healthcare systems with care centres. So you might be given a care plan, a draft care plan from the healthcare provider, but you're looking at that and thinking, what on earth am I meant to do? So you might go to the care centre and they'll assist in understanding care plans, especially ones that's written up already. And the health provider might be fairly kind to say, look, do you agree with what's written? And you're not sure, so you might, with the patient's agreement, say, look, I'm going to try and get more advice regarding this. And if your cared for says that's fine, I don't mind, then you might take that to the care centre and they might be able to assist, especially when it comes to medications and treatments for your loved ones. I think this one's more difficult though than navigating a healthcare system. I think that's not something that's easily available, to be honest. Healthcare systems change fairly often. But if you're lucky enough, you might get staff that help you to navigate that to access specific services. Or if you're finding yourself stuck, a good example is PALS. Like you try to contact patient voice liaison service at your local hospital and you're not getting anywhere. So care centre support staff will say, okay, look, I'll write the letter on your behalf, or if you contact them, CC me in that email, and they'll help navigate and say, look, they're trying to speed things up, whether it's finding out who's a member of the team at the healthcare provider, or getting a resolution to a complaint, and also providing clarity on the care that you're providing as well. I don't think this one is easy to get because, I'm going to get political here. Staff at care centres can also be blocked out if there are issues with healthcare providers. There's not a guarantee that even the care staff, support staff will ask for something, they'll get a response. So it's really tricky, this one, but it is there. You can make use of it, and it helps that safety in numbers if you're trying to navigate the healthcare system. Advocacy, care centres advocate for your needs with the local healthcare authority. Again, it's tricky to that one, and this is in regards to if you don't often have the confidence. I will do a presentation on that regarding the importance of carers developing confidence and making sure that the health provider is answerable to them. And the reason because of that is you make that wrong decision, your loved one will suffer for it. So I'll see to try and do that. I've written a few things down about voicing your decisions, but if you're new to the role, you can't really do this because you're not sure what the decision means, and there's jargon. One thing about the healthcare system is a lot of jargon flying around at meetings and you don't know what they mean. So the the care support staff will ensure your voice is heard in decisions affecting you and those that you care for. So here's I think I'm near the end of this soon. Housing and home adaptation support. So care centres can provide advice on adapting homes for easier caregiving. There are thousands upon thousands of different types of home adaptations, and you're not sure if you're getting the right one, but they will know, and they probably will get access for you to things that might be cheaper or free. Now, they offer guidance on physical modifications to the home. Care centres can suggest not just modification, but technologies that can aid in the caregiving home. So like fall alarms or monitoring support, stuff that's free that can be provided from the local authority. I recently went to speak at a care centre involved Kent. We had a lot of carers attend, and I know one of the speakers was actually the local authority talking about the use of technology to help carers who are caring for the elderly. And I think that was, I was really impressed. And this was actually a carers forum. So this is a really important bit. Carers assessments and wellbeing services offered. I always go on about carers assessments. It assists carers in accessing formal assessments for additional, and that's the key word, additional support or additional financial aid. I think that's more dwindling, the financial aid. But if things are flagged up, depending upon your care role, then when it goes to a panel, it will decide on the need and access for the carer, and they agreed that, then you're more likely to get financial aid. But it's not only on that, it's on a few other things. It's also helping to plan your care and role and assess the challenges you face, what support can help you. And it's not to take away your carer's role. They don't want to do that. More than likely, they want to see, what sort of support you need, and it's got to be recorded. So carers assessments are vital. I always say to carers, if you expect nothing from it, then still get that carers assessment so things are recorded, because it helps in your rights. Look at wellbeing services are providing programs for improving carers' physical health. There's exercise classes and stuff that I've mentioned before, actually. And it's all done in a supportive environment. So to basically create, a unique space for carers can share experiences. This is your peer groups again, and guidance on work balance, work-life balance. I'm going to get political again. Not all carers have to be those that are not working. I think, and I know that some people who are working end up falling into the caring role, but still want to stay in work. They don't want to, be on benefits. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but carers come in all shapes and sizes, and I don't really believe that because you're working doesn't mean you're not a carer. And I've come across carers saying, "Oh, well, you're working, so I can be carer." I think that's wrong way of looking at it. People need to sort of have a balance and have their life not interrupted. Yes, people do leave work and a job if they're there to try and support a loved one, and I can understand that. But if we can help carers stay in that job environment and balance work and life, and balance caring and work, then all the better for it. I think the majority, though, unfortunately, will end up in a situation where it's going to be so difficult to juggle work. So you got to see it from different sides as well. Personalized care, tailor resources and services to meet the individual carer's needs. And we also got financial aid. Again, this is something that is becoming more rare, and the reason is because I don't want to keep getting political. There have been a lot of cuts, so there's not much financial support to go around. Especially, as of it's now, there's a campaign on trying to increase carers' allowance. So financial aid, it's there, but not as much as it used to be for carers. So the conclusion for this very long lecture, presentation, is that care centres still offer a wealth of support information for unpaid carers, and I always say to carers, use them. If you're in a difficult caring role, the care centres are there to help you out. I shouldn't have to feel like I have to persuade carers to register at the care centre. Registering is not, it can be done probably 30 minutes, just fill in a form, your address, what you're caring for. It can be that easy. Do it right away. It makes your caring role so much easier. The services provided, can be influenced, actually. So what I've mentioned already, that's not even half of it. There's plenty of stuff that care centres provide if carers if carers themselves ask for it. And if enough demand it, it's possible for the local authority to fund that, or health commissioners to fund it. A good example is your NHS trust that was starting to fund workshops for caring for specific illness, and it was all free. This is over in southwest London. It was all free for carers. I actually had been given these posters away for carers. I was meeting in the hospital saying, "Are you aware of these free workshops? Do take advantage of them if you're not sure how to care for someone when they're discharged into your care." Not all this is the bad news. Not all care centres are the same. It's actually a postcode lottery, so you might find yourself with a care centre that just don't really have a lot of resources that I mentioned, but the staff are emotional. They want to support you the best they can. the care, and it's not always about the resources, it's about the will of the staff to be there for carers. So it's a mixture of things, but we've got to remember the more well-off the area, the better the resources are at the care centre. You can use the little services as you choose or a lot. It really is in the end up to you. But I always say, if you can, register, get the carers assessment, get connected to the carer groups. You don't always have to attend, but in the end, it does help your care role and you want to reduce those isolation. So I've reached the end of my presentation. I'd like to say, if you like it, do a little like in the YouTube presentation. Do like and subscribe. I'll always try and do as much as I can regarding raising awareness of carers, helping to provide knowledge and advice. And that's what I'm sort of known for. So I'd like to say thanks for watching and take care of yourselves. You deserve it. Thanks, and I'll see you again soon.